How long does Grindr have left? Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and I remember back in 2009 when the gay male hookup application Grindr first came on the scene, 3 whole years before Tinder, back when not everybody had a smartphone and essentially nobody actually had Androids, as those were only released in 2008 anyway. It was absolutely amazing for me to realize that although I didn't have an iPhone, my friends could go and check out which iPhone-owning gay males were within walking distance of them. And while it definitely wasn't something I was particularly eager to get my hands on, and have still never used, being that I like meeting guys for the first time in person to see if there is chemistry, as I spent basically all of my college years online dating, and it grew to be something that I realized just isn't preferable. Still, Grindr seemed like fun. It should exist. However, as the years went by, it didn't take all that long for transgender activists that were affiliated with the vile and semi-illiterate intersectional blog QueerT to use Grindr as a vessel to vent their frustrations onto the gay male community, claiming as far back as 2011 that Grindr was deleting the accounts of trans men, which the CEO denied doing even back then. But of course, being that the transgender activists responsible for this were undoubtedly intersectional feminists, and they do believe that a squeaky wheel will eventually grant them some sort of grease that they probably really like eating, they persisted with complaints towards Grindr instead of simply using Tinder or something like any sane person would, and eventually they got their way and Grindr caved. I bet they felt like $1 million for a whole day. I'm not going to rehash the story much because ultimately my friend rcat's did a great job explaining in his first video on his channel, which is called Grindr Has Fallen, linked in the description, that this happened. So go watch that video. However, the basic gist of it from my perspective is that the transgender activists seemingly went to the intersectional feminist corporate office to gather reinforcements from the women there, and so now even straight girls are allowed on the once gay male hookup application. I'm not making this up. Now, I know you're probably thinking to yourself, why on earth did the CEO think that this might possibly be a good business strategy? The entire point of the site was that it was supposed to appeal to a niche market, which was gay male hookups, and straight people already have Tinder and whatever else they might have. More so, what I don't think the CEO was realizing at the time that he made that stupid decision was that the intersectionals really don't care all that much about wanting to be included on the platform, as they probably never really hook up or get dates all that often anyway. Rather, they probably took it as a sign that Grindr was bending the knee to intersectional feminism because it's been said before and it can be said 5 million times until you are blue in the face, you should never apologize to SJWs. These are not people that will ever be grateful for your apology because truthfully, they probably know as well as you do that you did nothing wrong most of the time, so why bother? Instead, they'll take an apology as a sign that they can control you. Which, if you apologized, they probably can. In the case of Grindr, they knew that the man had every right to run the business in the way that they did, but to be perfectly truthful, they probably resented the fact that there was a gay male hookup application in existence at all. Because, really, intersectional feminists are relentlessly homophobic towards gay men, as they disapprove of all men, especially men who aren't feminists, and nothing is less feminist than men who love other men. Thus, Grindr offering the mere service that it already offered was already a great offense, and once the CEO bent the knee to the intersectionals, it was only a matter of time before he'd have to start licking a few boots. And oh boy, what a tacky H&M looking boot it turns out that he'll be licking. On July 13 of 2018, it shocked absolutely nobody when NBC ran a news story about an Asian American man who decided it would be a good idea to go ahead and sue Grindr over quote-unquote exclusionary language that's on its platform. Apparently, he's annoyed not because the company itself did anything, but because of what some users write about their preferences, and he expects the company to somehow intervene in order to spare his feelings, and I guess the feelings of other guys who are Asian that don't get laid on Grindr or who don't get to contact certain people on Grindr because they say no Asians. Yeah, obviously a lawsuit for this is completely ridiculous, as it's basically like forcing a company to control the fact that people aren't attracted to you in some way, which is never really gonna work because people are attracted to people for several reasons that don't just have to do with skin color, but might include skin color, and nobody should try to say that they shouldn't be allowed to have their preferences unless you want to sound a little bit rapey. And I guess a lot of people do who are intersectional feminists. They tend to be pretty rapey. But whatever, that argument has been made a million times. I'm not going to rehash it. What I found more interesting was the fact that this guy that is suing is actually an actor. So it won't surprise me in the least if we see him in some of those Now This clips that always go viral on Facebook, maybe as soon as in a week or two, where he will be talking about discrimination on Grindr and how hurtful it is, getting really, really heartfelt because, you know, he's an actor. And of course, I imagine it wouldn't be completely absurd to imagine that somebody is putting him up to it, but I'm obviously not a conspiracy theorist. That being said, I wonder what people are trying to accomplish here. Is this just some desperate actor trying to get attention for himself, acting on his own accord, hoping to capitalize with a ludicrous lawsuit for financial purposes so that he can have some savings as he ages? Maybe. Or perhaps, once Grindr was dealt the death blow from the sword of intersectionality, it didn't take long for the intersectional vultures to descend, hoping to finish off the platform for good, either by bankrupting it with lawsuits, as this isn't the first time they've been sued in the past 2 years, or by generally making the place unattractive to users so that it will eventually go out of business. Grindr has a massive PR problem on its hands, as first deciding to include women on the platform and then getting sued over alleged racism are both unattractive things to users. Furthermore, it's not like there aren't alternatives to the platform because there's Scruff, Mr., Daddy Hunt, Jacked, and even, get this, Bareback RT, where guys meet to exclusively have unprotected sex. That all said, I don't use Grindr, never have, never will, and as far as I know, not a whole lot of guys I know still use it, and perhaps, just perhaps, in the not so distant future, maybe literally nobody will, because maybe, just maybe, it will cease to exist. As they say on this corner of the internet, get woke, go broke.